Hi, my name is Listiner Inspires, and I am looking to change the narrative of what trauma and abuse looks like. From shame, silence, and stigma, to support and solutions. From hopelessness and rejection to healing and recovery. How do I plan on doing that? By bringing awareness that the problem that goes with not talking about what you've been through, not addressing it, not only affects that individual, but it affects us as a community. It affects us as a society.
Hey y'all. It's Listiner Inspires coming at you live. Teach, Lead, and Heal teaching series. And for those of you who listen to the podcast, Healing Soul Wounds. Thank you for tuning in. I don't take your time lightly. So let's get into it, baby. For those of you who don't know me, let me reintroduce myself. My name is The Listiner Inspires. I'm an award-winning author. I am a healing and recovery accountability expert, speaker, coach, as well as workshop facilitator. I am also the lead creative strategist for Rock Your Rebel. I'm also the owner of that company as well, where I help individuals, ministries, and ministers who have an idea, they have a plan, they have things that they want to put into place. They need creative content design and strategy to get it off the ground, to get it started, and to get it moving forward. And so thank you guys for tuning in. Whether you're catching it live, you're catching a replay, or you're listening to my podcast, I thank you so much. I appreciate you. And again, I do not take your time lightly. So today we are talking about one of the triple A's of starting forgiveness, or one of the triple A's to the steps of forgiveness. And last week I kind of gave you a little overview of what to expect in 2023 from Teach, Lead, and Heal. And so basically I will be walking you through the process of your healing journey. I will walk you through the steps, the 12 steps each month. There will be a new step, and I will teach about it. We'll have conversations about it, because I am invested in the healing journeys of others. It's just a passion of mine. It's a purpose. It's my purpose. It's something that I want others to be healed. I want others to start to live and walk in their wholeness. And sometimes you need someone to be along that journey with you, someone to tell you that it's okay, you can do it, you're not alone. And so I am willing to be that person with you. Every week, every Tuesday, I will be on here, and I will every Tuesday if you're catching it live, and every Wednesday if you're catching my podcast upload, just to give you some tools that you can use on your healing journey of living beyond trauma. So today we're talking about the first step of forgiveness, which is acknowledging it. One of the things that I know from personal experience is that forgiveness is not always easy, but it's necessary. Forgiveness is not always easy, but it's necessary. It's a necessary part of just living. It's a necessary part of living beyond that trauma. It's a necessary part of your healing. Oftentimes, we can bypass the healing process because we don't want to relive what has happened to us. We don't want to go back there again. And I understand and I get it. It was something that you were violated, you were hurt, you were abused, you were taken advantage of. And that's not something that you want to relive. You shouldn't have to relive it, but you shouldn't have to still be bound by the trauma of it as well. And so living beyond trauma really is living in a space of wholeness and happiness and peace and joy, all these things that you deserve. And so I want to ask you a question. You don't have to answer in the comment section. It's more like self-reflectory, where you can sit down and just think about it yourself. And I hope you guys got your pen and paper ready, because I always say I'll be dropping those knowledge nuggets, and you do want to make sure that you're capturing them for later reference, for later use, however you want to use it. But the question I'm going to give to you today is, do you think by not acknowledging what happened to you makes it less real, less painful, or less traumatic? You see, oftentimes we think that when we acknowledge something, we're giving credit to it. We're giving it energy, as we say, right? Um, but not acknowledging doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. For instance, not acknowledging that I have on glasses does not mean that I don't have them on. They're on my face. They're there. They exist. And but somehow when it comes to our trauma and our pain, we want to move past it. I want to get through it. I don't want to talk about it more. It's done. It's in the past. And that's very well so true. We don't want to live there. But you also don't want to just glaze over it like it never happened without getting the proper healing, the necessary therapy, and processing through that so that you don't continue to live in that pain. And sometimes we are so used to living in pain that we don't realize that we're living in pain. But that's a teaching for another time. So the definition of acknowledge is to accept or admit the existence or truth of. Similar words to acknowledge are admit, recognize, confess, realize, and then two interesting words that came up when I was looking for synonyms to acknowledge were respect and appreciate. I found that interesting, especially the word respect. But and interesting enough, when you really think about it, when you walk into a room and you acknowledge people by speaking to them, by saying, "Hi, how are you doing?" Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, right? That is showing a sign of respect. When you walk into any space, elevator, I don't know, there's any space, and you just get in and don't say anything, which most people 9 times out of 10 probably do. If it's the morning time, good morning. You don't have to get into like how are you doing, how's your day, good morning. That when you acknowledge someone else, that is a sign of respect, right? Well, when you acknowledge the past of the pain of your past, the traumatic experience, you are respecting yourself enough to say, this happened to me. No, it wasn't a good thing. Yes, it hurt. But I am going to start the healing process by acknowledging that what happened to me was not a good thing. You are respecting yourself enough and loving yourself enough to acknowledge that what was done to you was not right. It was a violation. It should not have happened. What can I do to start the healing process? And so when you're acknowledging what has hurt you, there are a few ways that you can acknowledge it. One of my very first ways of acknowledging the pain of my past and my traumatic experiences that I had as a child and leading into young adulthood was writing it out. Journaling, I'm a big journaler. Like if you look at my bed right now, I have different journals for different things because I was working on some projects this morning before I left for work. And even to this day, I journal my thoughts, I journal ideas, I journal writing it has been so therapeutic for me. And so there are many ways that you can acknowledge what has hurt you. Maybe you don't want to start off with talking to somebody about it. Although I always recommend therapy. I will always say I love Jesus, but therapy is also necessary because at the end of the day, when you have experienced trauma and abuse, when you have experienced things that have hurt you, whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally, whether it's financially, any violation of your space, you need somebody who is licensed, who has gone to school to teach you how to process through that, how to work through that, how to have a healthy way of processing it. I'm always going to say therapy, most definitely. But when you acknowledge what has happened to you, you can start off by writing it. Maybe you're not ready to actually verbalize it. Maybe that makes it too real. I get it. It took me years. Like I mean, I'm a whole adult with children, grown children, and grandchild before I actually out of my mouth said my mother molested me as a child. I will always kind of glaze over it and say, my mother abused me. She wasn't like she didn't do me right. She didn't treat me well. I would always glaze over, but never really say what actually happened because one, I had an unhealthy loyalty to her title as a mother. Two, I was ashamed. I felt like what was wrong with me that would cause her to do that to me. I didn't really understand that had only done what was done to her, and so it was just a generational curse that was just passed down through the bloodline. But God, it stopped with me, baby. And so, but when I realized that confessing it out loud, acknowledging what happened, didn't it doesn't make it less real. If anything, it was like a release for me. It was like this happened to me. This was what happened. This is my experience. This is my truth. And the shame of what I went through was broken. The shame of being molested by my mother, being raped as a child, the shame of the things that I encountered, because there was shame that I experienced because I felt like what was wrong with me for that to happen to me. Saying it out of my mouth, like confessing it, was like a release for my soul, and so it helped me to start the healing process even deeper. See, if you've been following me for a while, I always talk about healing as a journey. Where it is, it's not like a train where you get on and you get off at your destination. It's a journey. It's like once you get on, you should stay on. You will want to stay on because there's so many levels to it. There's so many things that you're gonna learn about yourself. There's so much to happen. As long as you live, you should remain on your healing journey. You should, and when I say that, I mean that you should constantly be working towards getting things up and out of you. And so writing is one way. Talking to a therapist, talking to a life coach, someone that is either licensed or specializes in that area is necessary. Shameless plug, my healing sessions are open. I am accepting a new client in April. Just saying. Go to my website if you want to see what that's about, healingisjourney.org. Another thing that I noticed that happens when you acknowledge what you've gone through is there's a freedom that happens. A freedom in being able to express yourself, releasing that shame, and knowing that you can start your healing process. And no matter how ugly that your truth is, how unpleasant it may be, it's still a freedom and not allowing what happened to you to hold you hostage. Because I don't know if you knew this or not, but your past will definitely try to hold you hostage if you let it. And so don't let it. Oftentimes when we're not acknowledging what's been done to us, it's most likely because we're holding on to some form of unforgiveness. And when I say that, I mean maybe you don't want to talk about what was done to you as a child because it hurt. It still hurts, and you haven't forgiven that person because you just feel like that what they did was totally wrong, and you're not gonna ever forgive them. But and I know you hear that we've heard this time and time again that forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. But let me tell you, it's definitely for you because when you hold on to the pain of what someone's done to you, it's like holding on to a knife on with the sharp end. You're holding on to the knife at the sharp end, and you refuse to let it go because like if I let this knife go, you're gonna stab me with it, or you're gonna. But at the end of the day, you're hurting yourself because you're holding on so tight that you're cutting yourself. You're injuring yourself. And that's what happens when we hold on to unforgiveness. Like it's like many sharp knives in us that's just cutting up at our heart, in our emotions, and it's cutting up at us inside. And we may think we're healed, but we're really scabbed over. And so we become hardened to a lot of things. We become callous. We become resentful, and we become bitter and angry. And all that comes from unforgiveness. And so acknowledging your past trauma will require you to bring up those dreaded memories. That's why I said in the beginning, therapy, seeing a therapist is so important. You should always seek professional help when you have experienced trauma or abuse because it can really do a number on you. What you confess no longer has the power to hold you hostage to the past. That's just like, say, for instance, maybe you have siblings, you guys are younger, right? And you go in and you take some candy. And so your siblings saw you, and then like, I saw you take that candy, so now you gotta wash my clothes for the rest of the month because if you don't, I'm gonna tell mama, right? Well, if you telling yourself, you ain't gotta wash their clothes for a whole month because you'll get in trouble, but you wouldn't be subjected to doing someone else's work. That's what unforgiveness, that's what not acknowledging what happened to you does. It holds you hostage to the pain of your past to the point where you're afraid to move a certain way, be a certain way because you're afraid of what people might find out about you. And I'm not saying get on social media and do a whole long post about what happened to you, but I'm saying start this process today. Get you a journal, notebook, pen and paper, and start to write out the things that you experienced. Start to do the research on finding you a therapist within your insurance network, within your budget, so that you can start that process. And there are 3 tips that I want to suggest to you when you are starting your healing journey, when you are starting to acknowledge what happened to you and that's the first step of forgiveness. One of those things is on while you're writing down everything that you experienced, write out the names of the individuals and the action that was done. Go into detail if need be. And this is not to share with anybody, but this is to get it out of your thoughts, out of your heart, out of your mind, out of your emotions. Number 2, ask the Lord to help you to forgive them for what they have done, what they done to you, and they may have done to others, but ask the Lord to help you to forgive them. And number 3, which is gonna sound crazy, but it's not for them, it's for you. Wish them well by speaking the best over their life. If they have abused you physically, emotionally, mentally, 9 times out of 10 that's happened to them. We usually do what we have either seen done or we have done to us. It's a really vicious cycle that if we're not aware will continue on for generations. And when I say wish them well, meaning I don't mean pick up the phone and wish them well. I mean literally you want them to get help. You want them to have a better life. You don't want them to do this to anybody else. Now, mind you, if they have violated you and it's something that they should be arrested for, then by all means they should serve their time if they've raped you or done anything like that. But at the end of the day, we want people to get their healing and their help as well. And so I thank you guys for tuning in. This was very brief but very important. I just want you to remember that happiness is you. You are the person that can make the best of your life. And you have to decide that. Make that decision today that you don't want to go another year, another day, another month, another hour walking around and not being healed, starting your healing process and allowing the pain of your past to hold you hostage. Thank you guys for tuning in. I don't take your time lightly, I always say. Remember to be bold, be unashamed, and most importantly, be healed. Until next time, you guys be blessed and be well. Peace
Trauma
out.
and abuse affects everyone, and we all have a part to play to change the narrative with love.